Hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge. Chelsea by the numbers. Happy numbers today. Chelsea win 4-0 against Southampton. We're going to be short and sweet and in and out on this one. Chelsea played the worst team in the league. They were very, very comfortable. They did not create a ton from open play. They were genuinely excellent from set pieces. And we saw some kids, which is fun. From an overall stat perspective, 2.3 to 0.66 XG. This is worse than the equivalent fixture last year. The equivalent fixture last year was Sheffield United at home, which Chelsea won 2-0, but were much more convincing in terms of total chance generation in that game. I'm not concerned about Cole Palmer, but he had another ice-cold finishing game, and it's quite funny to see because we know Cole Palmer is almost certainly an above-average finisher. We know he's an excellent shot creator, but he puts up something like a full expected goal today and does not score. He takes 7 shots of excellent quality and doesn't score, which is honestly quite funny. Again, these things happen over the course of the season. Pedro Neto scores a lovely goal. I thought Christopher Nkunku had a good game. I thought overall things looked mostly fine. The second half really went off the boil, but these things happen when you're up 3-0 at halftime. I want to give a nice little shout out to Philip Jorgensen, who I didn't think had that much to do, but at 1-0 makes a genuinely spectacular save off of a header. A really, really, really high quality save, which is a good rebound for a young goalkeeper. Again, he's 22 years old. The vast majority of top starting goalkeepers are not 22 years old when they break through. And I mean, you take the win for what it is. You're playing a pretty terrible team. You are quite fortunate with your other results in that Bournemouth and Villa lose. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, Forest and City and Newcastle have all also dropped points. That would be very helpful for Chelsea. There is a world where both Forest and Newcastle win, and I think that's probably detrimental to Chelsea's top 4 odds, which we'll talk about a little bit. But really, Southampton are awful. They played Joe Aribo at center back, which is just wild to me. But Chelsea were fine, and win is kind of the MO right now. What I do want to spend some time talking about before we do kind of the year over year and whatever is I want to talk about the set pieces, because the set piece stuff was like sneaky, very good. And not sneaky because I've been saying the set piece stuff is pretty good all year. Here's Chelsea's first goal, which comes off a corner. Chelsea run this exact routine all the time, like almost every single game, especially against teams that run heavy zonal markers. Okay, so you can see Southampton have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zonals, and then they have 4 players picking up, and then they have 1 on the edge. And the way the routine goes is you have a player try and disturb the near post zonal to drag them out of this space and block them off, and you have another player try and block the near post, like the kind of like front zonal player on the 6-yard box. It's always small guys. Marc Cucurella does it a lot because he's like never gets called for fouls somehow, and sometimes it's Enzo Fernandez. But here, I think this is Caicedo is going to come. He's going to bump the first post zonal player, and then Cucurella is going to come try and block this player off. All at the same time, all of this commotion coming to the near post, Christopher Nkunku is just going to wrap around to the back post. And we see this routine all the time. If I go over to my Y-Scout, which I got logged out of, I was going to show you that they did exactly the same routine against Aston Villa. I don't really know why I got logged out. But they do the exact same routine against Aston Villa. It just gets dealt with at the near post. They run this routine legitimately all the time. And so here's kind of what it looks like once the ball travels, right? Like you can see Caicedo sets a block on the near post zonal, Cucurella blocks the near post zonal, and now Tosin and Pedro Neto, who've taken their runs, are like totally like Neto does it, literally just runs past his marker and is totally free in that near post space. Tosin also gets a jump on his guy, and then you have Colwill tracking behind Tosin in case the ball gets a little bit overhit, also fully unmarked. At the same time, if you watch Will Smallbone, so we go, Will Smallbone's watching the ball, he's watching all these guys, he cannot watch Nkunku at the same time. Nkunku's gone. You can see now he's like, oh my God, I've lost him. You have extra players on the edge of the box for seconds. You've blocked both the zonal players. These players cannot impact the ball at all. This player cannot impact the ball. And you have 1, 2, and maybe a third who are going to be able to win first contact. Tosin does. Smallbone can't catch Nkunku. Any ball that goes inside the 6 and not on target, or if it goes on target and there's a rebound, Nkunku scores. Right? And it's not even like Tosin does a perfect first header. It ends up working out really, really nicely. But it's a perfect pick from Cucurella and Caicedo. Tosin gets into a great spot, and it results in a great goal for Chelsea. If you look at the second one, the second goal, it's similar concepts. Jadon Sancho is going to curve his run to the near post to stretch the gap that Neto can deliver in. Marc Cucurella is going to shrink the gap at the back post so that Nkunku can come totally free. And then you get a pick from Tosin, a pick from Caicedo, and all of a sudden, these very, very simple movements, Chelsea in this space are 3v5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Southampton players, 1, 2, 3 Chelsea players that can realistically attack this ball. So they're -2. And with a clever pick and some clever runs, all of a sudden, Chelsea are 2v2, 8 yards out, with their 2 center backs against their 2 center backs. And now we can talk about how good are Chelsea's players in the air. And like, yes, Colwill happens to score this one. He's missed so many of other ones of these. But like, this is excellent set piece design where you turn what is really not a dangerous situation, right? Like, it's a shallow free kick, so it's not wide, from like 35 yards out. Like, it's not an amazing high quality free kick location. Like, you're probably talking on average like 2.5%, 3%, something like that, right? Like, the average corner is 4%. And you turn this into a jump ball, your center backs versus their center backs, but everyone is facing their own net 7 yards out. Like, that's awesome set piece design. It is rubbish defending from Southampton, not putting that aside. Like, where is Sugawara going? I don't know who this is. Where are you going? Where are you going? Like, you can't let this become 2v2 from 5v3. But it's some clever picks, and it's some good movement. And it was really, really, really sharp set piece stuff from Chelsea. And I've been saying kind of all season, like, Chelsea are pretty good at set pieces. If we look at the McClockbot wheels, again, Chelsea are plus 0.02 set piece non-penalty expected goal difference. You might say, like, oh, plus 0.02. That's like not even a goal a season. But when you consider that last year Chelsea were like minus 0.08, that's a 4-goal swing in a season. 4 goals is a lot of goals. That's 3 points. So when we talk about Bernardo Cueva and, oh, they paid so much money to get him and he makes so much money and blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, if you can pay $1 million for 4 goals, you do it every single time. And so this is really, really solid improvement, in my opinion. And I don't even think this includes today's game. So this is actually probably more like 0.3 or 0.4. As is, at least based on the date that I'm seeing here. So that, I think, is pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet to me. In terms of the year-over-year stuff, like I said, it was a slightly worse performance than Sheffield United last year. The difference is a little bit less than half an expected goal now. But like, Chelsea are very firmly plus 2/3 of an expected goal team, which is a very, very comfortable Champions League team. Again, we'll see how things turn out from here. In terms of the chasing pack stuff, not much changed. Villa lost this game last year. Forest losing to Newcastle, and Newcastle is whatever swing. Bournemouth also lost to Brighton last year. They're in a very, very tough stretch of fixtures. And, you know, Chelsea kind of aren't. Their tough fixtures are really going to come at the end. That, like, Everton, Liverpool, Fulham, Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle, United, Forest. Like, that's going to be their stretch where they need to put the points up. And the bookies like them. Still overwhelmingly the favorite. This is top 4, not top 5 odds. 57% implied probability across most of these. When you take the VIG out, it's probably something like 53, 54%. The other teams are much less likely than that. This could change tomorrow if these two teams win. I think that would be a pretty big swing in their odds. But, like, it's fine. If Chelsea had drawn against Villa, you'd probably feel even a lot better. But that's kind of where things are. So we'll keep an eye. Chelsea don't play this weekend. They've got a little bit of a chance to rest, solve some things. I quite like the tactical decisions Maresca made again with Nkunku and Sancho as wingers, but much more narrow and much closer to João Neto, or Pedro Neto rather. And it works. It worked. It worked. It's Southampton, but it worked. Anyways, that's all from me. We will talk again, I guess, after Copenhagen, maybe. But we'll be a little while with no episode. So if you're liking them, share them, subscribe, retweet, post, whatever, all those sorts of things. It does really, really help grow the content. As always, enjoy the soccer.